fly swatter now, baby. He thinks he can try to come and get me, but he's not going to. I'm ready for that motherfucker. Come on. Wah, wah. Welcome to 30 for 30. I'm your host, Aiden of Blue Couch Productions, and on this show, I'm attempting to review 30 games in 30 days. For more on the show's concept, be sure to watch the Altered Beast episode before this one, and then come on back. Today, we're going to be discussing Gunstar Heroes, an absolute hidden gem in my opinion, a game that doesn't get talked about nearly enough compared to the other Genesis greats in the library. And why is that exactly? Well, I think in my opinion, it's just not on all those classic Sega Genesis compilations. You kind of have to go out of your way to find it, but man, once you do, it's an absolute blast. I want to talk about the game almost immediately, but before we can do that, we do have to discuss the history aspect. And this time, it's pretty interesting, because the story of Gunstar Heroes is the story of its company, Treasure. Now, some of you might know that name, Treasure. I feel like I've heard it before. Well, in case you haven't, let me give you the brief rundown. Treasure was formed out of disgruntled Konami employees looking for less creative restrictions and being able to do whatever unique idea they want. That sounds familiar. Seems like that's kind of a theme for really good Genesis games, is just to have a bunch of pissed off employees try something new and creative. And in this case, going from Konami to their own company, expectations were set pretty high. I mean, keep in mind, Konami back in the day was an absolute juggernaut of a studio. It felt like every game they put out was just one banger after another. Whether it was Contra, Castlevania, or even their lesser-known titles like Rocket Knight Adventures, they could do no wrong. In my opinion, they're the premier third-party developer right alongside Capcom, who even knew the hardware better than Sega and Nintendo did in some cases. And now here Treasure is, with some of Konami's best talent, trying to do something a little bit different than the typical Konami formula. Did they succeed, or did they end up failing? Well, given my love and admiration for the game, you can probably tell which one it is. But without any further ado, let's take a look at Gunstar Heroes. Gunstar Heroes is legit ahead of its time. No, seriously, for 1993, Treasure made an absolutely impressive game. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start first with the story. It begins in a state of turmoil. The evil empire has reawakened an old threat, and now it's up to our heroes Red and Blue to stop them. Unfortunately though, Green, their oldest ally, has betrayed the team. He decides to go work for the Empire, but his motivations aren't exactly clear. Can Red and Blue bring peace to the land? Can they rescue their friend Green? Or will the Empire win the day? I guess you'll have to play the game and find out. What I enjoy about this narrative isn't the plot or setup, but rather the characters. Each one is based on a specific color, and they perfectly embody the traits associated with that color. For example, Red and Blue are primary colors, so it makes sense why they are the protagonists. Green can often be associated with greed or evil, which makes him a great antagonist. We also have Yellow, the kind sister of Green. She still believes that he can be redeemed one day and turn to the good side, and that relationship makes sense given their distance on the color wheel. Outside of our four main characters though, the Empire also has a great cast of villains. Pink is the sassy girl with the mech, Orange is the loud and brash military guy, and Black is a bit weird and cunning to say the least. All of them, though, get moments to shine in the cutscenes. They can be both threatening and goofy all at the same time. Treasure is known for having a sense of humor in their games, and it's on full display here. They even have a fake boss fight with the last grunt enemy. His primary attack is revealed to be, quote, Love Love Dance, which sounds funny as fuck. Overall, the story isn't some great work of fiction or anything, but I'm impressed at how much characterization they managed to add to a 16-bit game with barely any cutscenes and hardly any dialogue. Anyway though, I'm sure you guys have already noticed at this point, but this game looks stunning. I legit forgot this was running on the Sega Genesis at points. There's just a level of movement and fluidity here that really impresses me. It almost feels like a technical showcase with how easily it pulls off complex effects like parallax scrolling and scaling. Gunstar Heroes even goes out of its way to have rotating bosses, which makes them look even more threatening than they already are. It's this level of polish that makes the world feel believable and the action even more fun to pull off. Speaking of action though, let's talk gameplay for a bit. Gunstar Heroes is a run and gun action game. You get 4 types of shots: a homing shot, a lightning blaster, a flamethrower, and a machine gun. My personal favorite of the 4 is the homing shot. It allows you to just focus on dodging the hazards and not worrying about the aiming. That's not to say the others are bad though, far from it actually. The flamethrower does a ton of damage even if it's a bit unwieldy, the machine gun has a faster firing rate even if it does less damage, and the lightning gun goes through enemies, allowing you to hit multiple guys with ease. What makes Gunstar Heroes unique though in terms of other action games is the ability to combine weapons. This reminds me a lot of Kirby 64, which allowed a similar system, but Gunstar Heroes perfects it. Combining powers is just super fun to experiment with. It leaves you asking questions like, what happens when I combine the flamethrower and the homing shot? Or would it be better to combine the lightning and machine gun? Or maybe I could just use 2 flamethrowers to supercharge my gun. No matter what combination you go with, you're guaranteed to have a fun time as each one does significantly more damage than the base shot. And hey, let's say hypothetically you'd rather go back to just having the one type of shot. Well, you can do that just by pressing A. This will let you cycle through your 2 shots separately, and you can go back to using both at any time. It's a system that's easy to understand, fun to master, and leads to a ton of replay value. But let's be honest here, the bosses are the reason to play Gunstar Heroes. They're an absolute highlight. Each fight is a joy to learn and take down, whether it's Pink and her giant mech, or Black in his luck-based encounter, in which he throws dice up in the air, and based on what number it lands on, he does a different elemental attack. Heck, even Orange tests your ability to travel up and down a helicopter. Legit, I didn't know you could grapple before this fight, but now I've mastered it in a fun and unique encounter. That, in my opinion, is the best way to teach the player. Not by telling me what to do, but by showing me what to do in a way I'll never forget. In terms of boss fights though, my absolute favorite is Green. This man has 7 creatures he can transform into, but you only have to take down 5 of them in a random order. This unpredictability means you have to be good at all the phases. You gotta know their weak points, how to dodge them, and how to manage your health for the next phase. It can feel like an impossible gauntlet the first time through, but I promise learning and beating Green is one of the most satisfying moments of the entire game. Alright, I get it. Gunstar Heroes is a masterpiece, right? Well, not quite. I do have a couple of issues. For one, the homing shot can be finicky. Half the time it locks onto objects in the stage rather than enemies, which can be an absolute death sentence in a tough firefight. I also found the movement to be clunky here. You have a slide, a wall jump, the ability to grapple onto stuff, and it unfortunately just gets muddled together too easily. Sometimes all I'm trying to do is shoot, and I'll accidentally pull off the slide. Sometimes I'll wall jump onto things I didn't even mean to, and grappling, for as much as I love the mechanic, just doesn't work every time. These minor hiccups are partially to do with the Genesis only having 3 buttons on its controller, but it's also due to Treasure being a bit too ambitious with their first title in some places. My final complaint though is that the level design just falls off toward the end, and this is my biggest issue. I already talked about the space shooter level going on for a bit too long, but there's also this level here where you have to go through a shit ton of enemies. It feels like an endurance gauntlet, and by the end of it, I'm tired of even playing the game, which sucks. If they cut out about 30 minutes toward the end, Gunstar Heroes would have perfect pacing, but unfortunately it just falters a little bit in that area. But those are all my issues. In conclusion, I still really love Gunstar Heroes. The story is fun, the presentation is immaculate, and I adore these boss fights. Plus, you can beat the entire game with a friend, which sounds like an absolute blast. This game just takes all the elements I love from titles like Contra and Cuphead and puts it all in a unique, fun package I simply can't resist. It's easily one of the best Genesis games I've ever played, and I totally recommend it. My final rating for Gunstar Heroes is a perfect 5 out of 5 stars. Please go play the game today. You won't regret it. Whew, man, just looking at that gameplay got me hyped to play it all over again. No, I'm serious. After I'm done filming this, I'm going to play Gunstar Heroes a second time and have an absolute blast. Like I said in the beginning, if you think this looks somewhat interesting, please go ahead and give it a try. It's one of my favorite Genesis titles. But yeah, I think that'll be it for this episode. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. But above all else, I just hope you enjoyed the video. I'm Aiden of Blue Couch Productions, and I'm signing off. Bye-bye. I think the fly has finally left me alone. I don't see him anywhere. Where are you, fly? Coming